So you've been diagnosed with cancer. We're going to talk about that tonight in this segment of Focusing on You. Welcome to this episode of Focusing on You. Beginning with this program and a series of them following, it's going to be about the new patient who's been diagnosed with cancer. And we're excited to have with us tonight LuAnn Bartolo.
Good evening.
Yes, and LuAnn is a very dear friend of mine and for a lot of years, and it's a very tremendous story of how you came to be diagnosed with cancer. And I think we really want to be able to hear the story. So how did you learn that you were diagnosed with cancer?
Well, I must first say, it's probably not the best way women should be. So I want to go ahead and give that waiver that this was just a way that I am, and it's not for everyone. But my first mammogram ever, I am 55, and I had my first mammogram in January. Reason being, I did not have insurance in my 40s, and then, like a lot of women do, fear took over because we never want to hear you have breast cancer. So I had gone to my GP for my annual physical, and she said, you know, everything feels great. You know, you're fine. Just go do it. It's going to be okay. And I had been hearing in my head, trust me. Just trust me. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go do it. Because the time, the days, it would get louder. Trust me. So I went, and I had the best technicians because they were saying, anything we tell you today, don't worry, we're all the same, it's going to be okay. And they let me see my mammogram.
So you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
Later I was, because they told me I would be called back. After my first mammogram, they said, you're going to be called back.
Okay.
We have calcifications.
So we're just doing screening at this
Yes.
point. Okay.
And they said, don't worry, we all have it. So I'm like, okay. But all the way, I kept hearing, trust me. So I went to Delaney, and they did the 3D. And I had noticed that women were coming and going, but I was staying. And they could tell I was getting a little antsy, and the technician said, don't worry, she talks to everybody. So I went in the room, and when you go in this room, all on one wall are mammograms. So it's a little overwhelming, but it's okay. So I sat down, and there was just this one that had a circle on it. None of the other mammograms did. And you just focus on, I just focused on that one. And I could hear her talking to me, but I was just focused. And so I just looked at her and I said, is that it? And she said, yes. You're going to need a biopsy.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay.
Those words of trust me were getting a little bit louder.
Yes.
And a lot of times people say when they've been told that news that they are like, wah, wah, wah. They see the mouth moving, but they're really not hearing.
Absolutely.
Is that true?
It is. And it was funny because one of the technicians had said she was a new radiologist, and I'm thinking, okay, she's overzealous. We'll play along. And so I was referred to a breast doctor here in town.
A breast surgeon?
Breast surgeon to do a biopsy.
Okay.
So sitting there, I was thinking, I can't believe this. But I knew I was going to be fine because trust me kept coming in my head. So I'm sitting there, and I go in, and they said, "Oh, this is only going to take 10 minutes. Don't worry." And I mean, you just do what we tell you to do, and it'll be fine. And so I did. And he could tell, I guess, I was a little anxious, and he said, "I'm going to call you, and I will call you tomorrow. But it's probably not going to be 9 o'clock in the morning." He goes, "What time you go to bed?" I said, 11:30. He said, "Well, it's not going to be that late, but if it gets a little late, don't worry. You know, I'm busy, but I will call you tomorrow. And if I am the one that calls you, don't freak out. I call all my patients."
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that night, he called, 6:30. I can remember the time. Those are things you will remember. And he said, "There is something that we found in your biopsy. I think you're going to have to, I know you're going to have a lumpectomy. You're not going to need chemo." And I'm sitting thinking, okay, I'm not even listening to you. You're saying what I have been afraid of. You're telling me.
So it was very surreal, wasn't it?
Very surreal. So it was funny. He said, "You do not have breast cancer. This is precancerous." And I'm like, okay. So I held on to that. This is not cancer, it's precancerous. Well, I knew, okay, I don't like that diagnosis.
Yeah.
So I have always heard of this doctor in town, Dr. Bebb. This is who you need to go to. And I felt it immediately. So I got in contact with Dr. Bebb, and I had to get all my mammograms and lab reports and everything to him. And so I go to him. Well, my husband really didn't take the news very well, and my mother didn't either. So I took them for Dr. Bebb to kind of relax them. And so he comes in, and he looks at my breast, and he goes, "Okay, we're going to go over here, and we're going to talk in this room." And so he turns, and he says, "By the way, you do have breast cancer, and it's stage 0.
Oh, that was bittersweet.
It was, but I knew. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a calmness came over me, because the voice of "trust me" was just around me. And then I knew, I looked, and my mom and my husband were inside. You could tell they're not taking it well. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get dressed. Y'all need to leave the room. Go next door. I'll be there in a minute. It's all good. This is going to be fine. We've got this.
Yeah.
So I did, but I did look out the window, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And even though I knew I was not alone, I became very lonely at that time.
So that goes to my next question is, how did this affect you personally? The one thing I know about LuAnn, and that I've always known about you, you're a person who is under control. And you don't know when something's really bothering you. You've always been able to do that, which has always impressed me. And it's a blessing yet a curse. But you were trying to hold everybody else together, and you were the one that was inside, and your heart's beating so hard. But you had peace.
I did. I was at such peace, because, and I feel like it might have been different if he had said it was a higher stage. I don't know if because it was stage 0, I stayed so calm, but it was like, okay, I've got breast cancer. What are we going to do about it? We're not going to curl up. We're not going to die. We're going to fix it, and we're going to do what we need to do. Dr. Bebb, I went over to the next room, and he had a stool right there, and we computer, and he says, I'm going to show you everything, and we're going to stay here until you understand. And I said, let's go.
That was very calming to you.
Very
wasn't it?
calming. Well, he started, of course, talking doctor talk. And I'm like, okay, we got to back this down a little bit. Make me understand. And so he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, and he said, you have questions? And I said, yes. I said, I have 3 daughters. Let me let you know, this is not a genetic cancer. This is caused by your estrogen. And he said I had ductal carcinoma in situ. Well, at first, I could not say that. All I could say are my milk duds are sick. So I bought
I love it.
milk duds.
So you.
And everywhere I went, I said, my milk duds are sick. And they're like, and I'm like, they have cancer, but it's okay. And because, you just, if you laugh, that fear subsides.
Yes.
It really does. And when you know you have a doctor, that to me is the most important advice anyone can give anybody. Trust your doctor. And if you don't, if there's a feeling in you that, like, my first doctor, I think he was a phenomenal doctor. I think he was a great doctor. Matter of fact, later I was told that the biopsy he got, not many doctors in Wilmington get them when the cancer is that small, that I really owe him a lot. And I do. But there was still just something in me saying, this doctor isn't going to be the doctor that I can truly trust. And I need to trust this doctor. This is not something that we can half-heartedly trust.
Well, you've dealt with a lot of things right in this last paragraph here, because it is so important. It's not necessarily that they're not a good doctor,
Right.
but they're not the right one for you.
Right.
And so, we're all individuals, and so we have to be able to communicate and to understand and to have that peace, that we work with our doctors and we have a thorough understanding and confidence in their recommendation for medical management. Back to your milk duds, which is actually the milk ducts, is that ductal carcinoma in situ, I think you understand now,
Yes.
is that the cancer itself was contained
Yes.
within the milk gland, within the
Yes.
milk duct.
Right.
Yes, and so it had not gone outside and metastasized outside of that area. So what a blessing for you that you caught it in a very early detection
Yes.
and preventing a lot of, management to treat this cancer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I kind of gave the little waiver at the beginning,
Yeah.
I am extremely blessed. I believe that God waited or had me to wait at a certain time because I had been told by one of the radiologists that if I had done my mammograms, it could have gone a different way. I didn't have a baseline.
Right.
And because I didn't have a baseline, they had to keep digging. Okay, so we need to understand why you have this cluster.
Right.
And so essentially that saved my life. But I don't know that I would say to any woman to do it like I did it because we were all different.
Right.
And the technology that we have now is just, because I'm going to be perfectly honest, that first mammogram I took high heels because back when my girlfriends were starting to have their mammograms, they kept talking about if you're short, it's terrible because you can't, get up
is
high.
true.
Yeah, that you can't get up high, and they squeeze you harder,
Right.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 5'2", so I took high heels to stand in, and they got
stilettos. Okay.
yeah. So and they love that. Everybody heard me say that, and they were like coming around the corner, like, we've got to hear who's saying this, And I laughed and I said, yeah. I said, I guess those were back in the old days, and they
Right.
said, absolutely. So technology has come so far.
It truly has, and I can identify a lot with your story and with your diagnosis because Hope Abounds came to be founded from our own daughter's diagnosis at age 32, and it was ductal carcinoma in situ, stage
Right.
0. Well, at that time, ACS, the American Cancer Society guidelines, were to start your baseline at 40. So she was still very young of that. But during that time, it increased to age 50.
Oh,
Yeah. And so you were only 5 years,
right.
basically. I don't believe that they have changed those guidelines back. But do you know that if you had any genetic mutations in your family prior to your diagnosis?
There is no breast cancer
Okay.
in my family. I do have a grandmother that passed from pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
But that's why, when I heard breast cancer, I'm like, but we don't have breast cancer. And
Yeah.
that's when he let me know. Dr. Bebb was just so, don't panic. Your daughters don't need to rush, to the doctors or anything. This is not a hereditary cancer.
Right.
This is a estrogen-fed cancer.
Right.
So, and the education that I have gotten in the last 3 months
It's amazing, isn't it?
amazing, overwhelming.
So you'll be able to be such an influence for your daughters who are in
Right.
their adult years, I
Yes.
believe, all of them.
Yes, yes.
Well, great. And speaking of, we're kind of getting to the topic of your family. How did your family deal with this diagnosis?
As usual, I think they handle it like all families when a loved one comes in and says, I have cancer. My husband really had a tough time. He was like, I just don't want to see you go through this.
Yeah.
My mom, I think because I do have such a relationship with my mother, and she was a nurse. She's a retired nurse. So she knows what a fight it could be. And then my daughters, they were very, they were sad. They were
Yeah.
sad. But, I went in very positive with them because I don't want them to worry about me. They have their families. So I really didn't want them to worry about me. But then I don't want them to think, oh my gosh, my mom has breast cancer, I'm going to have breast cancer. So one of the first things I told them is, by the way, this is not hereditary, so y'all are going to be good.
That was the best news
yes,
you could give them.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be good too.
Yeah.
Because I was driving by myself. I went immediately after I left Dr. Bebb's office that night. It was about 6:30. I told my husband, I said, you go home. I'm going to go tell our oldest daughter. And then when I come back, I'll pick you up. We'll go tell our second daughter. And then we'll tell our third daughter together too. So I went, and the reason I did that is I had to talk this through.
Right.
And of course, the first thing I say is, oh, you said to trust you.
Right.
I have a cancer diagnosis. Why am I not freaking out? 0 or 4, cancer is cancer.
Right.
Why am I not freaking out? How am I holding this together? How am I driving by myself to go tell my daughter, Mom has breast cancer? And all of a sudden it came out again. Trust me. We have to trust. I don't know if whoever's watching this, I don't know if you believe in God. I hope you do. But I hope if you don't believe in my God, I hope you do have a God that you
Yes.
find comfort
And peace.
and peace, because this is how you're going to get through.
Yes.
Because I knew when I walked through that front door and I told her this was going to be this was going to be tough.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to hold it together so I could be there for her. And of course, that's how it ended up. But you know, there again, she's like, I don't want to see you go through this. And that's what you hear a lot is, I don't want to see you go through this. Matter of fact, just last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I found out I do have to have radiation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which really is
it's
a
no,
good thing.
yes, it is.
It
Oh,
is.
absolutely, absolutely.
For prevention.
Prevention, totally, totally prevention. Yes, absolutely. And once again, you know, I look at my husband and he's like dwindling like a wilted flower, and I'm like, oh, why do I bring you? But you know, and I look at him and I'm like, why? Don't be sad. Why are we sad? And he's like, I don't want to see you go through this. I don't want you to see you go through anymore. And so, you know, I finally just had to look at him and say, what have I been through? Answer me that. What have I been through? Mm-hmm. I had a breast reduction. Found out I had back issues and didn't know it until I had a breast reduction.
And you feel better
I
already.
feel better. I do. I have a better relationship with my God. Mm-hmm. He is showing me things that
because you trusted him.
I'm seeing things that I would have never seen without this. So, to me, in my journey, we need not to look at the disease. We don't need to look at the word cancer. We need to look at what we are learning from it. Mm-hmm. Because you will see a lesson. You will see you're going to see a miracle in every day that you wake up.
Amen. Amen. But I think it's a natural order.
Yes.
For parents. I mean, they spent all those years raising us to protect us.
Right.
Our husbands took an oath, you know, and because of their endearing love for us, and together we are one.
Yes.
But neither one of them could fix it. Right. And you as a parent know this is your children. You know that this is something that is totally in the hands of the good Lord, knowing that we are both believers. But having that relationship with your doctors that you can communicate with and have that trust in, and certainly God giving you that inner voice of telling you to trust him. But I think in many ways it just struck me that I think you have been such a witness through all of this and learning many things for your husband.
Yes.
For your family and your daughters. Because a lot of it, and I think we've learned, it's not always what we say, it's how we react. Right. Not even how we act, but how we react. So, and I know how you've blessed me as a friend, seeing how you've gone through it, because I knew God, and we all know there's a plan for our life, and how is that going to be used? So I know it's been a tremendous encouragement. You have been the encouragement to your family. And to many that I know, even I think you've returned to work recently.
Right.
And how has that, have you noticed any difference in how people react to you now, or?
They do. I think everyone kind of walks on eggshells. Yeah. But with my personality of, we're going to laugh, you know, because every time you laugh, that adds 10 years to your life. So I want to make sure I
love to hear you laugh. Your laugh is contagious.
Thank you. But they are very, I think it's almost like we don't know what tomorrow holds.
Yeah.
So we're going to live today, and we're going to appreciate more, and we're going to not sweat the small things.
Puts things in perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think one of the first comments we will hear when our phone rings and someone is telling us that they've just been diagnosed with cancer, the first words that will come out of their mouth is, "I am so lonely.
Yes.
I thought I had friends, but I did. Evidently, I didn't. They don't call. They don't come by." And I think, we all, as I said, we all deal with it differently, but certainly that applies also to our family and our friends, how they deal with it.
Right.
And, they are not wanting to hurt us. They're scared to death of saying the wrong thing.
Right.
So they don't say anything. So, we try to really encourage to say, you know what, it's not fair, but you really have to be the one to outreach and say, laugh about it, and however you handle it, be yourself. Because once they know that you're yourself, they're going to be their self.
Right.
And they're going to feel comfortable to handle it.
Right. And I've been very, very blessed with good friends, and they do call and they text, and they have been there, but there is still this inner loneliness. Right now, I'm the only one in like my social circle, my family, pretty much anyone that I know that has cancer. I'm the only one dealing with it. And even though I'm a very strong person, when you just sit there and this loneliness comes in, and it's like you're the only one going through it. But then I know that that's not true. And to me, that's almost going over to the dark side. And I refuse to go over there because I don't want my friends saying, "Oh, don't call LuAnn, she's morbid," or, she's so sad. I want to stay happy and my normal self so that I don't make anyone feel uncomfortable. But that loneliness, I know that I feel it like when I'm going to the doctors. And it's not because no one's with me. It's not because it's just a really weird sensation that I have. It's that I am alone, or I feel that way. But then when I get to either Dr. K's office or Dr. Bebb's office, it goes away. But it's only while I'm driving there. And I think that's where self-pity tries to intervene. And I get there, I'm like, I don't need you, self-pity. There's no, I mean, there's no reason to have that.
So it goes back to, and one thing we're very convinced of, and I'm kind of hearing this from you too, our attitude is 99%
Yes.
of the battle.
Yes.
Of how we approach it and how we deal with it.
Absolutely.
And to really stop and think, at that time you'd already had your surgery, so the cancer is out of your body.
Yes.
So really you can look at it from this standpoint, of being a thriver.
Right.
Right? You're
Yes.
thriving at this point because you're able to do the preventative measures.
Yes.
And I think sometimes people with cancer that are diagnosed and newly diagnosed, to please don't fall, we encourage you not to fall into that attitude of isolation and feeling sorry, for you. You're allowed to have your
Yes.
pity party.
Right.
It's my party and cry if I want to.
Right.
So, but you know what? It's not going to help to recover. It's going to keep you in a depressed mode. So laughter truly is, it's a very wise person, is the best medicine.
It is.
And it does add to your life, because we have to look at things positively and keep the right perspective
Right.
always. And so I think that's one of the things that your family and your friends, and I know I have been so touched. I've
Yes.
seen you go through the journey. You have blessed my life, and to the point that I wanted you to be on our program this evening. But it is a mindset as you go through that journey that you have to say, you know what, I will get through this.
Right. And we have to make sure that that the word cancer doesn't take over. Because there, before my surgery, and I was at work, I would almost it would just hit me like, oh, I've got cancer. But it just didn't, I mean, I would just completely forget. But then it would just pop into my mind, and I'm like, oh. And it just,
Because you didn't bring it to the forefront.
right,
But we have to remember that the first three letters of cancer
yes,
is can.
can,
You can get through this.
absolutely.
And that's what we have to wake up every day and telling ourselves. And so, it's, again, back to that perspective that drives you and keeps you going each and every day.
Right.
So let's back up just a little bit because we have covered so much in your wonderful testimony. So you were given treatment options, advantages and disadvantages. Did you find that it was really important to seek a second opinion?
I did, because I just didn't feel the trust. I shouldn't say that. I did trust my first doctor, because I went to him, of course, and I let him do the biopsy. But I just didn't feel that our personalities, I needed more from my doctor than he could provide for me.
So basically, what we want to glean from that comment right there, we have to be, and you have to be, your strongest advocate.
Yes, yes. If you are sitting there and the doctor is talking to you and you're not feeling right, now, we're not going. It's not a warm and fuzzy feeling. You will know this trust that I'm talking about when you're sitting there talking to them. This doctor didn't want to laugh. This doctor would just want to stay so stoic, and I'm like, oh no.
That is not you.
No. This is not going to work.
Yeah. And it's
There
nothing
again,
personal.
nothing personal. And there again, I think he. And when I told him that I was going to another doctor, that I needed my records, I told him, I said, you need to understand, this has nothing to do with you. I totally trust you. I think you did a great job.
That's very kind.
You need to understand, please don't take offense to this.
Yes.
But this is something that I have to do for me.
Good for
And
you.
that I went and got my records, and we went over to Dr. Bebb. And I'm glad I did, because I was given 3 different options, wherewith on the phone, I was given one option. And that's what I just couldn't deal with. I didn't like what I heard. So anyway, so that's really why I went for the second opinion. And I really encourage anyone that that is diagnosed with any cancer, that this is such a beast, can be such a beast. You've got to have a doctor that calms it and keeps it calm, so that you stay calm. And if you don't feel like this doctor can do that for you, then that's where you need to draw the line and say, okay, I've got to go somewhere that the doctor's going to keep me calm.
Right.
And so that I can move forward.
What were some personal ways that you personally prepared yourself for this journey after you were told the diagnosis?
I thought about it, and I think you kind of just first you stay in denial. You're in a little bit of denial at first. But then I just said, okay, you've told me for the last month, trust you. I told you I'm going to. I can't go back on my word. I've got the best doctor. You provided that best doctor. You did have me catch it early. And I know that you didn't do this to me. And all of a sudden, I just turned my cancer, which a lot of people feel is a death sentence, into an opportunity, a journey.
That's what I wanted to hear. But that's the key word with you that I've heard, opportunity.
This is an opportunity. And I just had to take that word and just totally dismantle it, just do away with it. Yes, I had cancer, but I had a bigger opportunity. The opportunity is bigger than the word, than cancer.
Amen.
And so that's just what I did. And my personality is also a personality, like you had said earlier, I'm trying to watch out for everybody.
Yeah.
And
Comes a time, it's about you.
Well, and I understand that, but if I keep that little bit that I'm really going to pay attention to you, then it keeps me from, I mean, I still take care of myself. You know, I rest and all that like I'm supposed to. But if I'm really trying to pay attention to them and be there for them also, then I keep my strength. You know, that's one way of keeping my strength, is knowing that I'm going to be there for them.
Physically and mentally.
Yes.
Yeah. What was one of the most significant experiences that you would walk away after? I know you're now facing radiation that will start this coming week.
More than likely, I find out this week. I would say more than likely the end of May, 1st of June.
Okay, so we're going to want to bring you back after
Yes.
we finish with that. And
Okay.
But what would be the most significant experience you would want to share with others that are diagnosed with cancer? Is it the attitude?
I think the attitude, I stay grateful every day.
There you go.
Just say thank you. Thank you for this cancer. Thank you for my doctors. Thank you for my friends, and thank you, just thank you. Thank you for the ability to overcome. I cannot say thank you to him enough. Because there again, I don't look at this as a disease. I've looked at it only as an opportunity. And if you look at cancer as an opportunity, because there's going to be somebody that learns from your opportunity if you keep it as an opportunity. And I just say thank you for that opportunity, because I think that's why we're here, is to help each other through whatever trial comes into our life.
That's right.
And cancer is definitely a trial. Because, you know, once you've had cancer, you know, it's always in the back of your mind, is it going to come back? But if you help others, then it helps you too. You honestly get, and you hear this all the time, when you help others, it helps you more. And that's what I have definitely learned from this.
Well, and that's profound. It goes back to the saying, it's more blessed to give than to receive.
Yes.
So when we do get the attention off of ourselves, and, you know, even for people that are newly diagnosed, you know, at that time, and it's very human nature that we are hurting so within, you know, that we're frightened and you're scared. But I think if we think about maybe for a moment and try to get our attention on how others are going to react to this news that we're going to share with them, your heart kind of hurts for them.
Yes.
You know, because if they're truly, you know, especially our spouses and our parents and our children, and this is something that, you always want to fix. Somehow, some way, there's something we can do. But when we know that there is something such as cancer or a critical time in our life that we're going to face something catastrophic that we cannot, that we know that there is someone such as the Lord in our lives that we've been able to go to and to say, you know what, you've got this.
Yes.
Because you have this, I have this.
Right.
And so I know you have just been a tremendous blessing tonight. What an opportunity to not only share your experience from a personal level, the effect on your family, on your friends, how you've turned this from something that could be very devastating to, a bigger word that's more positive is opportunity.
Yes.
What an opportunity to share with others of, look how good I'm doing. And you know what? I want this for you.
Right.
But it has to start here.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing that we try to convey from Hope Abounds is your attitude. Take care of you. You deserve this. And it comes to a time that you have to focus attention on your healing and on your body, on your spiritual needs, on your emotional needs. And then the hardest thing I think people have is allowing others to do for them. Did you find that hard?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, because I know you and a lot of people, they find it difficult to let others do for them. But you're definitely at a time in your life that you have to do
Yes.
that.
Right. Absolutely. Kick back if you want to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and it's robbing someone else of a blessing.
Right. Right.
And as they come in to bring a meal or whatever, they send a card and they hear back from you, just to get that positive feedback, I think is so encouraging. So encouraging one another, and um, definitely, to, again, the mindset.
And let me
And
tell you, the cards. You mentioned the cards.
yes.
I would read those every day,
Mm,
and you feel this strength come over your body when you read the words in the card,
yeah.
and it's you don't. Sometimes we don't. I didn't want phone calls because I really didn't want to talk.
Well, I was getting ready to say, sometimes there really are no words,
Right.
to be spoken. And I think people saying that they're praying for you is the most anyone can do for you,
Right.
and to know that they're talking to the one that is, your healer. And, um, and I think at such time when things happen of that nature that we tend to look within of what is our relationship with our family members, what is our relationship with our Heavenly Father. And so many times we say we're going to wait. There's going to come a time, well, you're there.
Yeah.
You're there.
Right.
And so we are very blessed that we try to tell others, send the cards. You don't have to call them. They're not up to talk. They don't want to talk about it. So you have benefits, and there's even software opportunities through social media, like Caring Bridge, and some things of this nature that patients can set up and just make a post, or to assign a particular person in their family to say, you know what, just be my buffer, there. I really just can't talk about it, but let them know I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Or if I'm not doing good, you can let them know that too, and to pray for me.
Yeah.
But if people call and offer and want to do something, let them do what they know how to do, because we're all gifted differently.
Right.
And all of it has a place that is a blessing to us. And that's what, you've been able to do through your journey, is now you're being a blessing to someone else that is following your footsteps. And I pray that everyone would take heed to the words that you've shared, because they're such a blessing and endearing of how important it is to laugh,
Yes.
to think positive thoughts, to pray. Did you journal at all through this? Have you?
I did some. I did journal some,
Mm-hmm.
and I especially journaled. We didn't. I don't know how much time we have, but my day of my surgery, I had to write that down because I never want to forget that day. That was undoubtedly one of the best days I've. I still go back as a memory. My surgery was supposed to be at 2, and I ended up going in at 5. But I had friends and family that came, and there was so much laughter in that room. The nurse came in and she said, we normally don't hear this. And my husband was like, well, you normally don't have a patient like my wife. And, we were just talking about, reminiscing about the old days. And the surgery is, because I was terrified, because since 17, I had not been put to sleep surgically. So,
A lot of things have changed.
yes. And then when they told me I was going to be out for 3 hours, I'm like, oh my gosh, 3 hours. And
You don't want to miss a minute.
no, no. And so, for that to have been told to me, and, the unknown is always scary.
Yes, true.
And so my girls came to see me and sat and we talked and we laughed, and matter of fact, I'm hoping she's not going to be angry, but my Mary Vance came to see me. She was there at 10:30 when I got there at the hospital.
And this is one of your daughters?
This is my second daughter. Okay. And she sat down, and as soon as she sat down, she started crying. I said, okay, today's not about tears. We can't cry. And she goes, just give me a minute, give me a minute. And I said, okay. And I looked at her, and I kind of laughed, and I said, oh, you're just jealous that Mama's boobs are going to look better than yours by the end of the day. And she said, yes, and that I've got a plastic surgeon and you don't. And, so that started the tone for the whole day. And that's just...
And henceforth.
It really, the nurses were laughing. We just had the best. And if you go in and you find one thing that you can just laugh about.
Yeah.
And even if it's just a giggle, oh my gosh, it just makes the day go so much better.
That's right. Well, I tell you, this has been such a blessing for me. And I know that your words have touched so many hearts as we have talked this evening and you have shared this experience from your heart, that I truly want to talk, just a brief word to those that are listening tonight, that I hope that you've listened to this program intensely to realize that laughter, to realize that peace, through this time, and that it's not it can be a difficult time if we make it that way. But to look at it, as LuAnn said, look at it as an opportunity. There is a plan for your life, and we're going to seek the right doctors, that you be your strongest advocate as you've been given this diagnosis, that you have doctors that you are comfortable with speaking with, communicating with, and that sharing with, and to be very open with your doctors in communication, to be very positive in your thoughts, and to give grace. Give grace to family and friends. I think is so important because you don't understand what you don't understand, and neither do they. So we have to extend that grace and that understanding and mercy. And but know that we're going to be praying for you, and know that at Hope Abounds, when you receive that cancer diagnosis, we are here for you. And we want to give you that hope, that understanding, and we hope that you will certainly consider giving us a call and allowing us to be a support system on your behalf and being an advocate for you. God bless.